Okay, hi everyone. For those of you I don't know yet, my name is Christian. I'm a product leader at Iterate. And welcome to this event with Ruter and Marius, hosted by Produkleder.no. In case you're new to Produkleder.no, we are a independent community for product people and product managers in Norway. We do have a Slack community where we discuss anything product, and we do host events like this, where members of the community share stories and learnings from behind the scenes. This event will be with Ruter and Marius, who is the head of product and design at Ruter. So as you all know, or most of you know probably, Ruter launched a new app before summer, and there's been a lot of comments and reviews, many positive and also some negative. And what's really interesting about this case is that how to learn how Marius and his team view this from the inside. Was it a successful delivery on a new strategy for Ruter, or did they miss the mark on some points in the case of what the users wanted? So we'll kick off with Marius's presentation first. And if you have questions along the way, feel free to post it directly in the chat. But Marius will probably just go through with the presentation, and then we have a discussion session in the end. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Marius, I think over to you.
Good, thanks. Let's see if you guys can see that right. Okay, I just wanted to start quickly by, let's see if we get my presentation to work. Let's see. Yeah. Does anyone know what this number is? I think at least Frederick, you can elaborate on what this number is, right?
I think the number and the milestone we have reached now, and this is a bit a surprise, Christian, you haven't seen this, is we are now 262 people in Produkleder.no, and I think it's a fantastic achievement. And I see you're smiling, Christian, but I want to thank you for initiating this, and everyone who have been involved and contributing, but also learning a lot. So I think it's sort of a round of applause digitally. I think it's definitely a product that there is a need for. And I can say to all of you that Christian, me, and Leo, who's also on the call, is actually right now trying to understand what kind of value our product is creating. Not just 260 people actively using it, but what is really the reality of product managers in Norway. What is their challenges, what are their needs, and why do they come to Produkleder.no? So hopefully a lot of you will be interviewed. If you haven't received an invitation, please just reach out to us. We want to understand further, to understand the baseline and what kind of services and products and areas we should focus going forward. So that was just a quick intro. Thank you again, Christian. It has been wonderful so far, and I look forward to the future and the short future. Over to you again, Marius.
Thanks. Yeah, and I want to join in as well and tip my hat off to you for setting this all up, and not only the talk, but as Frederick said, the whole product leader forum. So thanks a lot. As you said, I'm here to talk a little bit about the app launch we've been through. It has been given, understandably, I might say, a lot of attention. I've a lot to talk about, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions as well. So I'll just get to it. And I just wanted to start by giving you a bit of context into why we're actually trying to do what we're doing. So this is Oslo, or I know in recent months and weeks of the pandemic, we've been through a period where the city of Oslo has actually stopped growing. But one of the challenges for us is that over the last, what should I say, 10 years at least, we've been one of the regions in Europe that has grown the most. We've been talking massive urbanization. which in turn leads to a bunch of challenges that might not be all that great for us or society as a whole. A lot more cars, congestion, pollution, in addition to people spending massive amount of time in their cars as well. So this is not really a development anyone wants. It's not sustainable in any way. And we see the same pattern in the public transport system. During peak hours, the public transport system is completely packed. We see that again now that the pandemic situation has kind of switched a little bit. So for us, it's more like, how do we solve this? Well, in part, we need to look at different forms of mobility to offload the system and give more people access, and all the time trying to solve people's underlying needs of mobility or solving their kind of everyday problems. At the same time, people don't really accept our service the same way they used to. It's no longer the only way to travel efficiently across the city. They're getting used to systems and solutions that are, or they have a totally different level of convenience, speed, quality of service, make people move around freer than they were able to before. And on customer experience, the customer's benchmark for that has changed massively. No one compares us to the public transport authorities like TfL in London, RATP in Paris, Schiss in Bergen, or SL in Stockholm. They're comparing us to global brands, and that they don't care all that much about the value we bring to society as a whole, but they want to get to wherever they need to go, and that, of course, with well, more of a cliche, but with that Uber-esque customer experience, of course. This is not something that's unique to us as like a public transport authority. This is something we see in the global society as a whole, but it affects us in a big way in what happens, because you're also getting your needs solved now by a lot of different mobility providers, which isn't necessarily good for the city and region. If you look at, for example, the evolution of scooters in Oslo over the last couple of years, it's not giving the systemic effects to the region that we really want. And if you also look at how Uber and Lyft has actually increased congestions in different cities, this leads to some consequences that aren't necessarily good for society as a whole. So, but if we look at Ruter as a company, we've been far ahead in the digital space. We introduced an app as our main ticketing tool. It was about 2012, and we got to 50% penetration years ago, which in public transport was unheard of. No one was even close. The closest one was in single digits up until like a couple of years back. But we didn't really pay attention to that and the evolution that was going on around us. So we're in some way kind of resting on our laurels. So all of this kind of means that we need to change. We need to offer new products and services. We need to solve all the daily challenges and problems that the customers have in a totally different way. Because people want to live their lives more or less the same way they do, or maybe even a little better than they do today. And at the same time, we have the audacity to say that they shouldn't feel the need to own their own car. So that's kind of a massive problem for us to solve, of course. Let's see. Yeah, so that's kind of the situation we're in. Nothing really unique about it, as I said. It's more or less the same way as many other companies in Europe and the world. But my or the department I'm in, we're set up in Ruter to kind of focus on the customers and spend a lot of time looking into doing user research into their problems, design sprinting, prototyping, piloting, different sorts of qualitative, quantitative research. Learning fairly early that we needed to offer that seamless customer experience where we try to connect the physical and digital world, combine the apps we have or had, and give them one user interface. And also where that experience is tailored to you and give you that that elusive feeling of flow that we're all talking about and working on, giving our customers. So we started making a new app under the code name of Ruter.no or Ruter.no. And although this was to many internally just an app, it's actually supposed to be a whole lot more. So, of course, the app is on your mobile all the time. You carry it around in your pocket, but this is meant to be more of a seamless universe where everything talks together and where we know at least a little bit about what you do and not in that creepy Silicon Valley kind of way, but that we know that whenever the weather is nice, you prefer to grab that bike, and we see what you're planning to do as well, and then that speaker in your living room can let you know that go outside, grab the bike, make it down to the party you're going to in time. And when it comes to the web experience, Ruter, as many other companies, have all of these kind of different channels and products in silos, of course. So we need to do what other companies have done over the last years and make them all play together, so that when you're on your couch on that Sunday evening with your laptop, you're planning your travel in the coming week. When you head out that door on a Thursday morning, for example, your journey and your ticket is right there at the forefront of your app. So it's making that whole experience talk together. Or where we can tailor the product you purchase based on what travel patterns you have. Or maybe you should be able to stop thinking about ticketing altogether. Why shouldn't you just be able to put your mobile in your pocket, travel around the system using a range of different services, from public transport to micromobility to car sharing, and then just being told what you've traveled or used and whatever that might cost you. At the same time, that customer experience needs to be carried through from your personal devices, the one you carry with you, to the ones you meet in the public space, where the stops or the vehicles need to assist you in the same way and portray that same seamless experience wherever you travel through us on the, as I said, stops or on the different vehicles we have, be it bus, boat, metro, or tram. So that's kind of the customer experience, seamless customer experience we're trying to do in the digital space. This is the central part of Ruter's, I don't know, like 50, 60, 70 page vision document. It's our strategic framework as a company. And of course, Ruter is a tool for the politicians to achieve their goals for the region. That's why we're here. And as I mentioned, with how kind of the evolution is going, I think one of the key aspects for us that we believe that the authorities need to have some sort of democratic way of, I don't know if controlling is the right word, but able to regulate it or push it in a direction with how mobility is shaped and used in the region. And again, if you look at how scooters has been over the last couple of years, it's been uncontrolled, unregulated, unsustainable. And this could have been solved with a variety of tools from authorities. And this is where we also think that we can come in and be one of those tools. And that's why at the top of this, we say we need to have ownership of the preferred customer interface. That means like have a dominant position into how the inhabitants of the region utilize mobility. And that doesn't mean like a fully regulated space. It means by winning trust and liking of our customers, making them prefer to access mobility and solve their problems through our interface, really. Okay, that was supposed to be a little bit of context, so where we're coming from, large part of our vision, where we're headed to. We also have a short movie that explains more about the actual customer experience across the physical and digital, but it's in Norwegian. It takes a couple of minutes, so thought it didn't fit in with the crowd here. But for whoever who's interested, hit me up later for that. And then let's dive more into what we're all here to learn more about, the actual launch. Well, we won't dive straight in because one of the things is, of course, the vision. The other thing is how do we actually achieve that vision? So I wanted to talk about the product strategy of that customer interface, as we call it. The three overarching strategy themes we're working with at the moment is what you see here is like personalize the travel experience, position Ruter as a mobility provider, and finding new revenue streams. So the first area is to ensure we cater to more individual needs, deliver more of a personalized door-to-door experience. Can I just take a quick tiny break and have people mute their microphones? I'm hearing like clicking in the background. It's a little I don't know, confusing for me. Thanks. So it's to cater more to those individual needs, deliver more of a personalized, like door-to-door experience, making less focus on our own infrastructure and more on the needs of the customers. So we have to establish that personal relationship to the customer that Ruter never did. Like we've never had a personal relationship. It's been fully anonymous. Of course, that's something that should be a possibility for everyone as well, but we think we need to give you more of a personal value into how you interact with Ruter to deliver on your individual needs. So some of the tactics we've employed in working this up now up to launch is the ability to establish a personal profile that you can use to for us to learn and give you more value. Then give them that value that target them as an individual instead of the public. And we've done that with work on smart departures, suggesting the right tickets, etc. The second team is more on the delivery on people's more extended mobility needs. At the moment, we or Ruter has traditionally been doing pretty well on mass transit between work and school, but other ordinary activities like errands, leisure is a much bigger problem. So how do we cater to those by maybe utilizing other services like car sharing, scooters, walking, biking? And again, some of the tactics we've employed here over the last year to create this is like easier and faster city bikes, promoting walking and biking through the travel search, working on integrating scooters as one of many things to come, to again give the options of different ways of reaching their goal, not only focusing on pulling them into the mass transit system. And the third theme we're working on is trying to find those new revenue streams, considering Ruter's vision, which is fairly ambitious, and our owner's ability to finance that in the future. It is important for Ruter to find new revenue streams or sources to diversify and monetize other kind of usage. And this is kind of probably the strategic theme we've come the least in, but it's a place we're focusing discovery at the moment. So how do we make it easier for people with more of a sporadic travel need to use Ruter? People that don't really find the relevant products through our current offering, that single ticket, weekly ticket, monthly ticket that doesn't work for them, that might lead them to take their car instead. How do we actually solve those needs with different kind of products and services? So now we're finally getting to the app, and as many of you know, the app was launched right before the summer. Wanted to say a little bit about the go-to-market strategy of it. The first part was we wanted to release this as a new version of Ruter.no. As many of you know, we're removing both of the old apps, and this will be the new app in the future. But we're doing this as sorry, that was Siri kicking in. But we deemed the risk too high with Ruter Billett. It has about 3 billion NOK in annual revenue going through it, and all they have more, or that app has more users with about 1 million monthly users. It would potentially make the transition faster. That change was deemed too risky and something we would have to do over time. Next part was for launch. We wanted to do this as soft a launch as possible over the summer to ensure we had as much control as possible. So it was a gradual rollout over the summer on both platforms during a couple of weeks to a month. It was not supported by any marketing. Any communication we did was trying to target current Ruter Reise users on different fronts. It was in-app messaging through Ruter Billett, for example. It was through media. It was through social and other parts to kind of ensure them that a change was coming. Because of an expectation that we all know, like the resistance to change. We have several research studies that show that this is a very real phenomenon, and we knew that we were taking away an app from about 500,000 users that never really asked for a new app. They were happy about the one they had, and they don't know our vision or what we're trying to achieve. So to get across that threshold would always be hard. So it was trying to let them know as much as possible. But as I said, like our analysis meant this was bound to happen at some time, and it was more about trying to make it as painless as possible, really. And then the third part of it was also we wanted to keep the Ruter Billett as an alternative because we wanted to keep that around to ensure that if you didn't get it solved in the new interface, because as we all know, like product is never finished, this is a starting point. And we needed to ensure that they get their base ticketing needs sorted. So converting people over time, but you always had that alternative while we're moving towards that future vision. I mentioned resistant to change, and it has felt a little bit like resistance. We've had customer support inquiries into the 5 digits. A share of it has been very positive, but the majority has been critical. The best part about all of it has been that most of it has been constructive. So it's been feedback we can actually use, which is super valuable. But of course, it led to us having to scale up customer support over the summer to handle it. It was we debated quite extensively whether we should wait for some of the features that we knew were expected and wanted till after the summer. But a variety of reasons led to us doing it before the summer because of the ability to learn more through the summer instead of doing it right as people are getting back from holiday or vacation and then being stressed out by work and then we changing the app in the meantime. So that all led to us doing it before the summer. Then so that was like the feedback we got to customer support through like phones, emails, etc. But we also had the App Store reviews to deal with because people definitely make their voices heard there as well. And this is kind of interesting to look at closely because although you see some of the pattern where a lot of it is critical, a lot of it is positive as well, but all in all, it's constructive feedback. There's a major difference between the Apple and Google platforms. On iOS, we actually have, although we're getting the same kind of critical positive feedback, we're actually increased the rating from the older Ruter.no from about between 2.5 and 3 to 3.5. On Android, on the other hand, we're actually way below. We're around 1.5 on rating. So although they're fairly feature similar and the user interface is similar, it's a very big jump between the customer satisfaction on the two. And we're looking into why that is. Then, of course, we had some main topics of feedback through that feedback loop that we had, and it actually is a fairly good representation of our roadmap. The 4 main topics has been unfamiliar travel search. There's been 3 others pertaining to ticket purchase, which for us has been more of a timing issue because all of those 3 features were deliberately missing and was planned, solved right after the summer, and that's kind of where we were debating before or after. And the third part of that ticket is also something that's on its way out, and none of it has really been a surprise to us. It's all been on our roadmap, but of course, now that we're getting here, the weight of some of them might have changed. Especially this with travel search, we're trying to go more into a door-to-door, giving more of a seamless experience across a fuller mobility sector has been something maybe that we knew we would work on, but we maybe should have focused more on before launch. But again, this boils down to the question on when to launch, because as we all know, like product is never finished, and it's more about trying to pinpoint the right release at the right time. And in this context, I think one of the interesting things to talk about is testing. Like, did we test it enough? And how can we get all this feedback if we actually tested it on a lot of people? Well, we've done extensive testing, or as extensive as we managed over the period that we had. We launched this to about 1,500 test users summer of 2020, so more than a year ago. This was first a group of inner city people trying to learn if some of our earliest hypotheses were right. Then over the next year, we scaled this group many times to encompass as many users and use cases as possible. We tried giving access to tens of thousands like they were given access, but considering the pandemic situation, it's been hard to get a lot of people to actually use it. And altogether, we've had, I think it's about around 6,000 people testing it on and off through that period. But I think travel patterns have been sporadic at best. So definitely been a little less learning than we wanted. But we've talked to them, tested with them, got feedback straight into like product teams through their Slack channels, etc. So we've definitely used it and gotten I said, like, we would always love more, but we've gotten more than enough for what we expected. And of course, we've learned a lot through this beta phase that's influenced the product, making it easier for people to find nearby stops, changing the search flow, refocusing ticket purchase, what features from the existing apps that was crucial and what wasn't, influencing that roadmap all the time. And all in all, we're happy about the feedback we got through that period and what we learned as well. Although, as I said, like in a different year, we would have learned a lot more. And I think, as I mentioned, like one of the hottest potatoes here is maybe the unfamiliar UI patterns in some use cases of like travel search. And I have a lot of respect for that. And I'm not saying we're doing everything right with it as well. But as I mentioned with the strategy, we're trying to move more into the door-to-door, moving into mobility and getting people to focus more on where they need to go instead of where they are and the stops and our infrastructure. And the combination of like changing people's behavior, trying to make it as easy as possible for them, it's been a challenging thing for us to do. And actually that travel search is the core of our experience and something we're working on continuously and will be for years as well. So let's see. Yeah, there. Wanted to then also talk a little bit about what the numbers are telling us. I think we definitely underestimated the numbers of users actually using the new app. At the end of the summer, we were close to 500,000 users. Now, as you see there, we're 650. We're about 27% is Android, and the rest is iOS. Our analysis before the summer led us to believe we could expect somewhere around like 430,000 users by end of the summer. So we ended up about 15% higher than expected. We see the same with ticketing, where we expected somewhere around 5% of tickets being sold through the new app, but ended up around 15% of the totals. And this is something that's ticking upwards day by day and week by week. But I think looking at this with more of that strategic lens, we see that people are now also starting to use a whole new way of buying tickets, which points more again to that door-to-door individual need, where they buy tickets through the travel search, which is something Ruter's never actually given people the ability to before. And at the moment, this constitutes about 20-25% of total purchases, which is a great deal more than expected. We also see that 2% of our users consistently use us to find city bikes. Another percent users use us to see or utilize biking or walking routes, which are, of course, small numbers at the moment, but this is an extremely important start for where we're headed. I think it surprises a lot of people that when we talk about Ruter, why aren't we focused on getting as many people as possible into the public transport system? And I think that's one of the bonus of working for someone that doesn't have only monetary goals. Like for us, it is actually a success if people walk or bike more and use the public transport system less. Of course, we need to uphold our revenue and we need to get more people to use that as well. But it's getting everything of that to kind of deliver on how the politicians want to create a better society for all of us. That is the goal. Going into personalization, which I said is one of the other strategic teams, we're seeing lower numbers than expected. Some might have to do with our test group consisting, not mainly, but at least a large part of it is early adopters in a way. Benchmarks from that group indicated 75 to 80% would sign up for a profile. But as you see from this, like, we're seeing now that this number lingers somewhere between 40% of daily users being registered and logged in. And this is in part because we don't at the moment have all that much personal value to offer. We have some. And some of it is also in part because what I said earlier, Ruter is fundamentally a company that can't differentiate too much between anonymous and registered users. So, but some of the things that are coming also into the mobility space will require a personal profile as well. It can't not. So we're working on different sort of tactics to move these numbers. The last number I wanted to show you is what I would say is our weekly active users, which we're trying to move. This is the closest thing we're having to a North Star metric at the moment. This is so people that have registered, logged in, have a valid ticket sometime throughout that week, and uses us for travel information and mobility. So it's someone that actually uses us for everything we want that user interface to deliver on. I think we're actually trying to see if this is the perfect North Star metric, but this is the closest thing we have to it now in weekly active users kind of space. Closing in on the end here, I think, but I just wanted to say some things regarding the learnings that we've done, and maybe some of the things we could have done differently as well. I think first off, we could have been better at holding people's hand, which is something we should always aim to do. But we could have done more to prepare people. We didn't do enough to make changes to Ruter.no over the last year to prepare them better, ensure they recognize enough of what we do to know or not feel that their whole lives kind of been altered. At the same time, we need to actually be focused on our product strategy, why we're doing what we're doing, and what goals we're trying to reach, and what that takes. We knew there'd be pushback. We're also fairly comfortable in that position, although it's never too comfortable. And we're also comfortable with the fact that in the short term, we might actually lose some users as long as the long-term strategy will work. At the same time, we have to be humble and make changes. We have to look at that qualitative and quantitative data we have, like through testing, feedback, the numbers we're getting through Amplitude, showing how they're using or how we're achieving their goals, and making changes to the product continuously. Trying to talk to them, understand them, deliver on their relevant needs, and then updating kind of the roadmap based on that. And I think that is kind of like the last thing is like, this is of course like the people in this forum, this is our job as product managers or leaders, like figure out what problems to solve and give the customers like the value they seek in something that also works for us as a business, which is important. I think that was mainly it for the presentation part. I'm closing in on the end. There's a couple more things I wanted to do. One is I want to ask for people to spar with. At the moment, I'm into scaling everything product, so working a lot with org design and scaling our product org, structuring scaling processes, figuring out delivery and discovery on a multi-team scale. Also how we can use product ops to help that. So if anyone at all is interested to discuss this, just reach out. Love to chat. You'll figure out how to reach me on the next slide. Before that, I have one tiny question, and if you guys can just go into the chat and do like up and down thumb on, because one of the things here is, of course, did we time it correctly? Did we launch it at the right time? Should we have waited, or was it the right time to do it before the summer? And I know you don't have all the information, but just from what you have now, give a thumbs up if you think we launched it at the right time, or thumbs down if you wanted to, or we should have waited. Just an interesting little tiny poll I wanted to see there. Yeah, that's it. I know I'm trying to interact a lot now, and I have one more favor for you in true kind of iterative product management style. Customer feedback on also ripping off other people's ideas. This is inspired of one of the product leaders I enjoy following, Gibson Biddle, old Netflix guy. So take out your cameras, point it at the QR code, and super quick form, give me just like a number on an NPS scale, and if you want to answer like what could I have done better or what worked for you, that's it. That's why I also won't take down the slides, so you guys have time to give me some feedback.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Marius, for sharing your story behind the scenes in this launch. I think this is what makes knowledge sharing possible, to really look behind the scenes and really help each other understand what's going on and what problems we're solving. So we'll go over into a discussion section. Let me just turn off the recording first.